You said something a second ago that we've gotten some response to. And for clarity's sake, if you don't mind kind of giving the Cliff Note version or the narrative of what the response has been and what the subject we discussed was that generated the public response.
Well, and typically we'll talk about something on the show, and Alec will post it on our social media, and then some things tend to get more response than others. But you're getting a lot of response on the commentary about the football stadium.
Negative, positive. I mean, I don't care, but, All
right, well, I'm going to bring them up here.
Okay.
And I'll tell you exactly what. But mostly very much supportive of what you're saying as far as something needs to be done. I'm bringing it up now. So
is it on Facebook?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we have people that follow on Facebook, you can take a look at the Live 95 page and see the thread that has begun. But there's quite a bit
well,
of
the commentary
response.
Began by someone asking, I don't remember how the subject became part of the show this morning, but at the end of the day, we've got a football stadium in Florence. And Florence is not Manhattan. Florence is not Chicago. Florence, well, thank God it's not Chicago. Florence is not
really.
Yeah, good chance you get shot in that town. Mm-hmm. Florence is not a major metropolitan area, but Florence is I hope, a progressive, and I mean progressive not in the liberal sense, a progressive looking forward sort of community. We just had two physicians from McLeod Healthcare represent our community in a fine and informed capacity. And I look at things that have happened in Florence over the past 25 or 30 years, and I'm proud to be a part of it. I didn't grow up in Florence. I'm from Pamplico. But if you transacted commerce, you came to Florence by and large. That's where you came to do your business. It is the economic center of an entire quadrant of the state of South Carolina. And I find it reprehensible. It's unforgivable that we've allowed year after year after year after year in this community for the student athletes who participate in the sport called football to have to play in a stadium that has not been updated, not been improved, not been advanced. The aesthetics are the same. The conditions are the same. And it's inexcusable. I mean, we should be embarrassed that there's not been more of a commitment by the school board or whoever the powers to be. And I don't want to list names, and I'm not calling, every politician a no count, no good son of a gun politician. And here's what I found in politics. There's always an excuse. I mean, I served in county council. I served as lieutenant governor. The easiest thing for me to do was making excuses to why things are as they were or why they aren't getting any better. I can always come up with some random, it's their fault. It's the Democrats' fault. It's the Republicans' fault. It's the State Department of Commerce's fault. It's the Parks and Recreation Department's fault. I mean, the best thing in the world to do is find an excuse. It's inexcusable. I don't want to hear any more excuses. But we live in a town that we should have more pride about where our kids, our student athletes in particular, play football. Larry Rizzo was here a second ago talking about being a big Clemson fan. I'm a big Gamecock fan. I called some football games on Thursday night. I went to some communities much smaller and less affluent than Florence. But there was a communal pride about their football facility. And listen, I'm not trying to say it's football and then academics. It's close. But it is by a nose, academics, and then football. I'm a football guy, and I get real passionate about this. I played in a couple of jamborees in the early 80s. In fact, I think the jamborees, the two I played at Memorial Stadium, were 80 and 81. I visited Memorial Stadium last year as a broadcaster, and I went back with a couple of members of county council, and it looked just like it did in 1980 when I played there. Well, it didn't look like it did. It looked like it did in 1980 with, 40 more years of weathering and neglect and the elements taking its toll. And I just don't understand how we rationalize that, how we excuse that. Well, I don't care if you like football or not. The student athletes who play the game of football in a community like Florence should expect to play in a better facility, period. And I know for a fact, and I said earlier, not he said, she said, not innuendo, not rumor. I've been in a couple of meetings with people that I respect and trust who have said if the school board were more than willing to do their part, we would be more than willing to do ours. And I'm talking about city officials, county officials, members of a certain charitable foundation in this community that has made enormous contributions to this community in a myriad of differing ways. These people stand ready to aid and assist if one group of people would make it a priority. And for whatever reason, and there may be good reasons, for whatever reason, that one group of people have chosen to not make it a priority and accepted the inferior conditions, the embarrassing conditions that we allow football teams at Wilson, football teams at West Florence, and football teams at South Florence to experience. 3 high schools in one, and we can't have a damn decent stadium. I mean, that's real intellectual, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure I garnered your respect and attention. We got 3 high schools in this city that play in one half-ass football stadium. And it's embarrassing. I mean, we should demand better than that. And the people that are responsible for allowing that to continue should be ashamed of themselves. It's inexcusable. And I don't want to hear excuses. I mean, I know he said, she said, and we can do this and they can do that. I mean, I've been inside the belly of the beast. I mean, I understand where you are. I understand the complexities of politics and the balancing act of getting reelected and only having so much money to spend on this and that and the other. But I stand by my previous comment. It's inexcusable and it's embarrassing. I broadcast a game last year and a visiting team, the kids had to go behind the bus to use the restroom. I mean, it's 2018. I mean, get with it or find somebody else to get with it. And I just think that the public should demand more of the people responsible for making those decisions. And listen, at the end of the day, you get the government you deserve. I'm an apathetic public, the apathetic voter, the disengaged voter. That's why you end up with conditions like we have today. And I'm not blaming a single person. It's completely and totally unfair to blame a single person. But there's a group of people who make decisions on behalf of public education in this community. And I understand the struggles of finance. I understand the cuts to the government and the cuts to the government. We do a lot of cool things in education. And I want to make as clear as I possibly can, it is education first. As much as I love football, it is education first. It must always be education first. We need to take care of the really good teachers and get rid of the ones that aren't any good. That's a debate for another day. But anybody who can call in here and defend the fact that our student athletes in the sport of football at Wilson, West Florence, and South Florence have to play at a stadium as dilapidated as Memorial Stadium, if you're okay with that, if you believe you're doing a good job in navigating those waters, then we need you out of there. And we need somebody else in there who is visionary, who is courageous, who is creative, who is innovative, who is smart enough to understand how to put things together. And let's improve the football stadium in Florence. It's time we improve the football stadium in this city.
And the social media response, suffice it to say, is very supportive of your point of view. It's something needs to be
I appreciate
done.
the support.
And they're thankful that you're raising the issue, and they suggest that they challenged us to have candidates for school board on the radio show to discuss their vision for the district, including the stadium issue. We have people challenging priorities, saying, where's the city? And their priorities seem to be in other areas sometimes other than this.
Look, I understand disagreements as well as anybody. Previously, having been a politician, I understand people have disagreements. But there's got to be some courage. There's got to be some innovation. There's got to be some willingness. You can't do everything because it's the easy thing to do. Sometimes you got to do things because it's the right thing to do. And the right thing to do is improve that stadium or build a new one and figure out a way to pay for it. Well, Kim, that's easy for you to say. You're on a radio show. Let me in the room. I mean, I know enough of the players. I know enough of the people you need to get around this table to make things work. And the easiest thing in the world to do is say no. The easiest thing in the world to do is say it is what it is and we can't do any better. Well, if we can't do any better than that, then our future is not as bright as I hope it is. And I go back to last year, calling a football game and looking behind, and there's kids using the bathroom behind a bus because they don't have facilities to accommodate. And it's ridiculous. I mean, it's, and I'm not doing this to try to drum up support for a movement. I mean, I'm speaking my mind. I've done it for 6 years on this radio show. Gets me in trouble sometimes because what comes in my head normally comes out of my mouth. All I'm arguing is that there are several groups of people who are willing to try and improve the situation, and there's one group that apparently has no interest in doing that. And it's one of the important groups that needs to be around the table. And look, it's not personal with me. I mean, it never has been personal with me. But it's the idea and notion that we allow these student athletes to play at a subpar facility, and there's no commitment to make any better. I've not seen any commitment whatsoever to make it any better. And it frustrates me. And I'll go on the record. I mean, I'll absolutely go on the record.
Well, it sounds like there is commitment from some other entities.
Well, I mean, there's unofficial commitment. In politics, you got to be real careful about getting too far out there because somebody might leave you out there by yourself. And I've been there. I mean, I've been too far out there and somebody left me out there. And that ain't a lot of fun when you're in public life. I mean, I'll assure you that ain't a lot of fun. So you got to make sure you've got your T's crossed and your I's dotted. And I've talked to enough people, and I think I have enough credibility with our listeners to lead you to believe that I'm not blowing smoke. I've talked to enough people that could influence some county judgments, some city decisions, a certain charitable foundation, that if they saw the school board willing to improve, enhance, or replace the football facility, they would be a part of it. They're not going to do it for you. They shouldn't do it for you. You're the governing authority of a school district. Part of the school district's responsibility is extracurricular activities. And I want to make crystal clear again, I'm not the guy that says football should be the priority. It can't be, only in the Southeastern Conference. I would never say football needs to take precedent over science and health and education. I mean, no. I mean, the mathematics. I mean, all these advanced educational opportunities are wonderful things. But extracurricular activities are a part of the student experience. Athletics is a big part of the extracurricular activities. And if we're going to do something, damn it, let's do it. If we're going to have football teams at Wilson, football teams at South Florence, football teams at West Florence, let's give them a decent stadium to play in. And let's demand that. And you know who cares a lot about it, Reb? The parents. But you know what happens? That parent's kid graduates, and he's not as passionate about it anymore.
Sure.
And the people whose kids have played, the people whose kids are going to play, that's the group of people that can create the energy necessary for a group of people who, for whatever reason, choose to not make that a priority. And I don't hear funding. I don't want to hear that anymore. We all have funding issues. I have funding issues at the end of every month. Businesses have funding issues every time you turn around. If you want to do something bad enough, you'll do it. If you don't want to do it, you know what you'll do? You'll find an excuse at every turn. That's what our people responsible for governing the school district have chosen to do. And I'm not talking about every one of them, but it must be the majority. Because in democracy, guess what? Majority rules. I'm not saying it's everybody on that school board. I'm not insinuating it's everybody on that school board, but it must be the majority. Because every time I voted on county council, 5 never lost to 4. I learned some of that the hard way. 5 beat 4 every single time. So don't say it's him or it's her, or it's him, it's her. It's the majority of you who have chosen to say, we're good with the state of affairs of Memorial Stadium. And if you are, shame on you. And if the public allows those people to continue to be in those positions of influence, shame on you.